I'm Justin Mott, and welcome to my home here in Hanoi, Vietnam. So, I just finished a handful of photography workshops, a couple private workshops and a group workshop that took place here in the north of Vietnam. And there's one thing I kept seeing over and over. I see this all the time in all my workshops, and even in all levels of photographers, even some of my friends that are pros. Even I make these mistakes sometimes. But this is just a simple composition mistake, something easy to fix, something you all need to know. I'm going to teach it today. I'm going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to go around my house. Now, I'm not a rule of thirds guy or draw a triangle or let's make a flowchart kind of guy explaining what's good composition and what's not. That's not my thing, but distraction is distraction, and bad composition is bad composition. And I'm going to teach you how to fix it. But before we dive in, I just want to thank today's sponsor, Wotan Craft Bags. They make the coolest bags, and all the cool kids have them. And if you don't, that's probably why your photography is terrible. All right, you know that's not true. But what is true is that I absolutely love their camera bags. I love camera bags in general, and they make my favorites. My Pilot Series 10-liter bag is the most used bag in my entire mega collection. But for an everyday stylish bag, an everyday like carry bag, but also hybrid camera bag, I use their 12-liter Lightning Rider leather bag. That's easily the coolest bag they make, in my opinion. So in a sense, they make my coolest and my most practical bag. And don't sleep on their new Heritage series either. It's somewhere in between the two I just mentioned. I'll do a full episode reviewing those bags soon, but for now, if you're interested in buying a bag, go check out the link in the description box below. If you're not interested in a bag, that's okay. Don't buy one just because I said so. Today I want to keep it simple. We're going to talk about humans, as my wife calls us, and how we fit into this puzzle of our everyday environment around us. Whether you're shooting portrait, street, or reportage, all these principles apply. So let me take a little bit of my own advice and do a little bit of less telling and more showing. So let's start with something planned like a portrait. Remember, with portraits, perfection is expected, whether you know it or not. You control everything. You control the light, you control the posture, and you definitely have control over the composition. So at the very least, there's no excuse for bad composition. So let's say I'm standing here in front of my office door, this giant yellow door. Now look at the shot. If I'm posed here, I've got this line, this distracting line popping out of my head. Now if it's a portrait, the eye's going to go to me, and then it's immediately going to go to those distracting lines behind me. Or maybe even if I just was a little bit over, it's not growing out of my head, but it's growing out of my shoulder. Equally distracting, equally sloppy. But if I as the subject move over just a little bit, or the photographer moves, or sometimes both, all of a sudden, nice and cleaned. I'm framed cleanly within the yellow door and it's not so distracting. Now, the same idea is much more difficult out in the street. It's much more difficult street photography or reportage photography, but the same thing applies. You have to find that spot in the puzzle, that spot in our environment where the human form blends into their surroundings without distraction. And there's always a way to make this work. It's everywhere. If you're willing to move a little bit, maybe you've got to change the lens, maybe you've got to move up or down or left or right. Could be getting low so the person is silhouetted against the sky, or getting higher so they're framed by a clean, less distracting background and maybe some leading lines of a pathway. But there's always a way to solve this. Sometimes I'll sit on compositions. I often sit on light as well. I try to sit on light in compositions, and I try to see where a person can fit within that. Now, depending on your level or depending on what you're trying to achieve, I know a lot of people like to just go out and shoot street photography just for light or just to practice, and that's okay. I mean, I've talked about having more depth in your photography and moments, but I understand practicing. I also understand liking shooting that way, but the same thing applies. Like looking for nice light, sure, but looking for a nice background where a person can sort of flow through. And now when you're doing that for travel photography or reportage photography or documentary, you're trying to figure out where the human or your subject fits in with that background, and then also how to tell a story with that as well. So where do they fit in within the shapes of their everyday life? And it's complicated, and I'll go deeper into it in other episodes, but just for now, I want you to think a little bit more, looking around your house. Where can you fit? Where can your subject? You can position your dog if you want, or have your partner pose for you, and just kind of see what works and what doesn't, or go back and look through your images. I bet, like a lot of you out there, like a lot of images that I've seen, the images that sparked this episode, I bet a lot of you guys have wires, poles, branches growing out of people's heads. It's sloppy, it's messy, it's distracting, and it takes away from your picture and probably takes away from the story you're trying to tell. And yeah, of course, the busier the environment, the harder it gets, but Hey man, I live in Hanoi. If I can do it here, you can do it. This area is just filled with distractions. If you've ever seen power lines here, you'll know what I'm talking about. Now, when it comes to composition and cropping, another way you can be creative, it's totally fine to crop people creatively. In fact, I encourage it, especially when it's done intentionally. You might want to focus on someone's outfit or a gesture or bring their attention to the hands or leave out their eyes to create some mystery. Just be intentional with your framing. Have a purpose to it. And if you're gonna crop certain parts of people out, try to do it at natural breakpoints, if that makes sense, like the waist or the neck. Avoid awkward crops like cutting through limbs, like half of an arm, half of a hand, or half of a foot. These kind of cuts can feel jarring and sloppy. You know what I mean? When you just have like part of the hand in the shot or at the edge of the shot. Often, like, I will chop people's heads off. Hopefully this transcript isn't taken and then I'm like, FBI's radar is going off. No, I don't physically chop people's heads off, but I might chop someone's head off in my composition to bring attention to their hand or their outfits, or I might chop them off at the hands just to bring attention maybe to the details of their hand or something they're holding. Or I just shot on a workshop the other day. I had this beautiful colorful market. I just had someone just their hands coming in, because if I put the whole person there, it was a sloppy composition and your eye didn't go to the beautiful colors of all the fruit and it just wouldn't have worked well. So you have to be intentional with this, and this can be overwhelming in the beginning, but you just have to kind of practice, understand these basic rules, understand when to break them, when not to break them, and also understand that it's important to fight for that composition, because everywhere we go, there's little spaces that the human, your subject, your story, that they can fit within your frame. There's always a way to make it work without the distracting lines and shapes popping out of their heads. I really encourage you guys to go back through your portfolio, go back through some of your street photography. And look, I make this mistake a lot. I just try not to do it as much, and I'm always working around that. I'm always looking in the room to see, in my commercial work, in my street photography work, in my portrait work, where can I fit the human form, and where do I want to crop creatively to tell the story that I want to tell? And I'll just do a little side dive here into silhouettes. They rely even more on clean, intentional composition, because the image typically in silhouettes isn't driven by any sort of emotion or expression. It's more of an aesthetically pleasing shot. You're working with a strong contrast and shape. So when I'm shooting a silhouette and I'm overlapping with a window frame or a messy background, it doesn't read as clean. So if I go back to my big windows here in my house and I show you here, same thing applies, right? If I move a little bit over, it's less distracting, but it's even more important to get the human form correctly here. And I find often profiles work better, especially if you got a big nose like me, because you want it to read as a person. Sometimes it could read as a little bit of a blob. And also, in addition to silhouettes, the same thing kind of applies for shadows. I like to incorporate a lot of shadows into my images. I was heavily influenced by James Noctway, who's sort of a master of light and shadows and stark contrast. So if there's going to be a shadow of a hand, you don't want that hand to just be balled up, because it's just going to look like a blob. It's not going to read as a hand. Or if you're going to have a person, like I've done here with the rhino, that I want it to read correctly. I want to see that person's profile. Another thing that helps too, living in Southeast Asia, is conical hats. That reads easy as Vietnam. It reads easy as a person, or different types of hats also can be interesting. But pay attention overall when you're shooting silhouettes and shadows to even be cleaner with your composition so that it reads, because really those images are going to have to heavily rely on clean and strong compositions if they're going to read properly, because typically in those shots there's not a strong moment. So you want to elevate your composition. And now I know some of you are thinking like, oh, just shoot wide open. That's why I bought my Summilux lens. Or maybe you got a Noctilux, a sub 1. Blur the background away, and you're like, you know what? Now there's nothing distracting in the background, man, because I've just got bokeh balls back there. But yeah, I love a good shallow depth of field shot, and I'm probably guilty of overusing 1.4, but not every shot needs to be wide open. Sometimes the background adds context, adds meaning, adds story, and you shouldn't be relying on your lens to do all the work, or even most of the work. That's lazy. You should be contributing too. That's your job as a photographer, even if it's not your profession. It's your job when you pick up a camera and go shoot as a photographer. So really this applies to all photography. The world is a puzzle out there. Go and practice at your house, move around at your house, get a willing subject to pose for you, and just sort of see. Look how distracting it is when things are growing out of people's heads. Look how much cleaner and more visually appealing your images are when there's not distracting things happening, when you can have the human form fit within your background, whether that be outside, inside, anywhere in the world. It also, I will warn you, it becomes a little bit of a disease, because everywhere you look, or everywhere I look most of the time, trying to figure out Where would I put a person here if I was doing commercial work? Where would I stand if I was shooting a documentary about this person? It sort of plays with your mind all the time. It's also very helpful in creating clean compositions. But also remember, guys, rules are meant to be broken. These aren't set in stone, but it is important to know the rules before you break them. Personally, I like clean, minimalistic frames. It's a big part of my photography, commercial work, and my personal work. I'm a stickler for shapes, lines, and compositions. I like geometry, but you don't have to be as precise as me, but it will help you to try it. So learn, play with it, see if it suits you, be intentional. That's it for today. I hope this little different episode was helpful. If you guys have any questions, ask me in the comments. If you like this kind of episode, encourage me. Put some positive comments in there. Let's be positive. Tell me and I'll do more. If not, then just keep your mouth shut. No one wants to hear from you. Yeah, that's it. Don't forget to check out my online store at askmott.com. I've got my central, not my northern, my central Vietnam workshop, a brand new workshop, 6 participants only. That's open for registration. That's a week long in central Vietnam in December 2025. I also have private one-on-one workshops, 1 day, 2 day, or a custom workshop anywhere in the world. We've been doing a lot of these recently. I didn't realize how interested you guys would be in to learn one-on-one from me, but they've been great. I've been doing a lot of them recently, and I absolutely love them. So if you're coming to Vietnam or want me to come to you, let me know. We'll put together a custom package for you guys. If you're not interested in meeting me in person, but you do want to talk to me online, I do offer one-on-one online coaching, mentorships, and all sorts of different things. Again, you can check all that out at askmott.com. Don't forget to give my sponsor some love, Wotencraft. They help me make these episodes. They sponsor me, so give them some love. Even if you don't want to buy a bag, add them on Instagram at Wotencraft. I'll put a link to all that in the description box below. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to have a wonderful day.